Welcome into SportsbookReview.com. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And this is the College Football Show, Week 13 of the offseason. And that is right, we are heading into, let me check my notes, Week 9 of FCS. And we're almost ready for some playoffs.
Getting close, man.
I am
close.
Stoked. We got some fun matchups to discuss with that. We're going to recap last week. We got a whole lot to discuss in the world of spring football in the FBS. Lots to get into. Before we do that, go ahead and let you know, if you would so kindly, go ahead and hit that like button for us. It is the little thumbs up button. Looks just like this. Go ahead and tap that for us. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That would certainly help us out a lot. We've got over, 84,000, almost 85,000.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're getting close to 85K.
A whole lot here at SBR. So make sure that you hit subscribe. That way you won't miss a video. You can also hit that little bell that's right next to it, and that will give you notifications for when we post new videos. And, of course, we got a fun team over here that knows a lot about what they're talking about. NFL, NBA, college basketball just finished, but we're moving into all kinds of other sports, UFC, everything else, and you college football boys right here, because we are getting ever so closer to the fall, and I am ready for football season already. So make sure that you subscribe and that you hit the little bell for the notifications, like the video, and jump in the comments. If you like a topic that we're discussing, you want to get involved with it, jump right in there with it. And if you want to hear us talk about something else, you can jump in there as well. Or if you would rather, if you don't do the YouTube thing, you just watch the video, you can always hit us up on Twitter. I am at GaryWCE.
I'm at Chris B. Giannini.
Or you can always email us if you want to go the old school route. I am Gary at winningcureseverything.com.
And I'm Chris at winningcureseverything.com.
We try and make it easy on you. Yeah. Very, very easy. So let's go ahead and dive into the topics of the day. We're going to try and run through because we've got a lot to discuss this week. And by the way, starting in May, we're doing previews, conference previews. We're going to start giving not win totals, because the totals won't be out. Regular season
they won't even be available.
But we're going to talk a little predictions, what we expect from this year, because spring football will be over by the time we get into May. We're going to start moving with some of the smaller conferences. So come May, you better be ready. Just letting you know. Let's dive into the first topic of the day, and that would be spring game recaps. So let's talk about what actually happened this past weekend. Now, there wasn't a ton of them, but there were some interesting ones, and that's why we're going to actually bring them up. To start off, Central Florida, UCF, Gus Malzahn's first big public display. And what's one of the first things that they did? The players come out with their Twitter handles on the backs of their jerseys. So on my notes here, I put genius, ? And I absolutely think it is.
I think so, too.
He said in the press conference after that it is a new era. It's a new way of doing things if we're moving into name, image, likeness. And in the state of Florida, starting July 1st, they can start doing what they need to.
That's right.
I think it's a great idea.
He talked about personal branding for the players. He thinks that's important. He talked about how we, as a school, UCF, Central Florida, the biggest alumni base in the country right now. They're one of the biggest up-and-coming schools, but they're a young school. The school's only been around for like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, the average age of the alumni was 36?
The average age of the alumni is 36 years old. He said all the Blue Bloods' average age is like 65. He said our guys are on Twitter. Those guys are on Facebook. Took a little shot at Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Talked about how Facebook for old folks. I like Facebook. I am old. And it took me a long – I've only been on Twitter since Gary made me. So, yeah, I thought this is really smart by Gus. This is really smart by Gus. Now, I find Gus extremely likable. I think this is the home run hire to begin with. And you know me. I do not care about spring games at all. Gus got me to care about a spring game.
Now, would it be the wild rhino play?
So I like that he's running trick plays in his spring game.
Oh, yes.
I also like the Twitter thing. I like that he's wanting to put the kids out front. I think we are going to see a different Gus. I think, as much as I respect the Auburn fan base and all this stuff, I think they put handcuffs on coaches maybe more than any program in the Power Five.
On top of that, it wasn't just the handcuffs that the program put on him. It was also the stress of every year your job is being talked about.
And I think we are going to see the funnest Gus Malzahn we have ever seen. And I'm going to tell you this. America, not just the American Conference, America, look out. UCF is coming.
Yeah,
They are.
I would not doubt
You
that.
think a couple of years ago when they went undefeated and they got a little chesty, they are about to get chesty.
Just-
And I can't
just
wait.
wait.
And I cannot wait. It's gonna be amazing.
They ran a play called the Wild Rhino. Which, by the way, you guys are going to have to excuse me tonight for whatever reason. I cannot speak.
That's okay. I go through that all the time.
I keep messing up my words tonight. But Wild Rhino is the name of the play. They ran basically Wildcat with a 6'2", 285-pound defensive lineman named Kalia Davis.
Yep.
Direct snap, run right up them. And he said, he posted on Twitter afterwards, branding, of course. He said, I'm going to stick it in the end zone next time.
Yeah.
And I absolutely believe him.
So
100%.
I kind of thought a few years ago, Hugh Freeze tried to do some funky stuff with in Kindiche.
Kimdichi. Yeah.
Kindiche. And they were weird, funky trick plays. I've always thought if you were going to bring like the old school refrigerator Perry stuff in, edge rushers are the most athletic dudes on the field.
Yes.
And they're the biggest, they're the strongest, and they're the most athletic people on the field. Okay?
Okay, so I don't know about the biggest.
Well, okay, offensive linemen are bigger than them, and D linemen, like tackles, are bigger than them, but they're not usually taller than them.
Okay,
like these guys are giants. They're just lean. Okay? Yeah. They have no body fat. They're the fastest guys on the field outside of like DBs and little slot dudes. To be that big, that fast, and that strong, that's who I'm giving the Wildcat to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not bringing some fat ass to come do it. Listen, I want offensive linemen to get fat guy touchdowns because it's fun. No. I want to see Khalil Mack get up in here and run one down.
Yeah, okay,
I want to see Myles Garrett take a Wildcat.
My God, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Tackle that from the 1 yard line.
Speaking of tricky, staying with Gus Malzahn, did you see his pass back to quarterback Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah, I saw it was a double pass, right?
It was yes, but it was a pass back. So it was a pass that was behind the line of scrimmage.
I got you.
And then a pass that he passed back across. So this was to a wide receiver on one side of the field, and then a forward pass
To him.
to the quarterback.
Yeah.
And nobody was over there. Now,
A little
course,
different than the Philly special.
a little bit different.
A little bit different.
Yes, very, very much different. But it took advantage of Gabriel's speed in his legs.
Athletes running this thing. It's Nick
Gabriel actually has, we know him as somewhat of a mobile quarterback, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Utilize it.
Oh,
It's genius. So
Gus is going to utilize it.
And this is just a couple of the plays that they are going to run this year. It's going to be nuts.
All Gus did was take every defensive coordinator and every head coach in the American and just say, oh, this is what he's showing us.
Like, this is what we're going to have to deal with.
This is the moves he just showed us.
Yes.
What's he not showing us? Oh, you got no clue. Moving
on from there, let's jump into Florida State and Mike Norvell. Now, not a lot to discuss out of this. You were able to watch this one easily. It was no big deal. ACC Network. Quarterback Mackenzie Milton, new transfer that came in from UCF. He's running with the ones. He is the leader right now in the club, and he looked like he was the leader of the football team.
He's like 6 years older than everybody else there.
Oh yeah,
but this was the other one that I was actually interested in because of Milton.
Yeah,
you know that I fell in love with this guy at UCF. He was my guy from years ago. I thought he was a special quarterback. He had an unbelievable, just horrific injury. One of those where you just don't think they're going to come back. And he came back. He looked good. I think he looks good. And there's not going to be a quarterback in the country that's going to have the leadership abilities that he's going to have or the qualities that he's going to have.
What Mackenzie Milton ran under Scott Frost, Josh Heupel, etc., Mike Norvell does a lot of the same kind of thing.
No, it's very similar offense.
Yeah. Very
similar offense. He knows it, and he is a 6th-year senior starter. He's got that experience level. He's got I've been here. Yeah. He knows the sacrifice it takes to play big boy college football.
Oh, absolutely. So he looked great. Like, from what I was able to tell, Did not appear hobbled at all.
No, I thought
there was no
really
hesitation.
No.
He looked ready to play. He
Didn't look afraid.
Oh, he was making some throws.
Well, he can't, but he's always been able to make throws.
I know. What I'm saying is that he was stepping into everything, and it was lasers, man.
No, he looks good.
Now it's just a spring game. I don't want to put too much into it, but
well,
from what you
see
in live
him
action,
move around playing football, knowing nobody's really going to hit him or take him out. But he was able to step into the throws. He's not playing timid right now, and that's important.
Yes, very much so. All right, moving on.
That's the last one that I cared about. The rest of these are for Gary.
The ACC. Let's talk about the ACC. NC State, by the way, Dave Doran just signed
Florida
a new
State
contract.
ACC.
Yeah, Florida State's ACC. Okay. NC State ACC.
All right.
Dave Doran, head coach, just signed a brand new contract. And, of course, spring practice comes around, spring game comes around, and who do we have? We got Devin Leary back. Quarterback last year was delayed getting his start to the year because of all the COVID stuff. And then once we get out of the COVID stuff and he comes back, then he ends up breaking his collarbone, and he's out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they had a nightmare season with injuries.
They must, and we're still able to win 9 games last year. So fantastic game, or fantastic season. Devin Leary, of course, coming back from that, led 5 scoring drives in the first half, had 2 touchdown passes, including a 58-yarder that was right on the nose, and a red zone touchdown. So it was good to see him get back into action. The other one that I was interested in, and we'll wrap up the spring game recaps on this one, Boise State. Super windy in Boise, of course. So both quarterbacks, Jack Sears and Hank Bachmeier, looked average. Not great. So obviously you can't take a whole lot from this anyway. But the defense dominated. The defense has always dominated Boise State's. Yeah. For whatever. Even when Peterson was there, Peterson's got the offense. This has always been somewhat of an offensive football team, but the defense always dominates the spring game every single year. And they did it again this time, and it makes sense. Andy Avalos, former Oregon defensive coordinator, former Boise State defensive coordinator, now the head coach. His first game back at Boise, his first spring game or whatever. It's, the first public look, obviously it's going to be defense strong. They got more depth on that side of the ball. Yep. So the depth at running back, going to be an issue after George Giannini. That's going to be a problem, and that was pretty noticeable in this game. But other than that, this team's going to be strong because it's Boise State. They got more talent than everybody else.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, they put more resources into it. Moving from there, we have got some big-time FBS Spring Games coming up this weekend. So we'll roll through them right quick. On Friday, you got Memphis and Houston. On Saturday, you got Miami, Florida, Mississippi State, Ohio State. These are the highlights, by the way, because it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with Miami, Florida on the ACC Network, and runs all day long on Saturday. And, of course, you got FCS going on. This is the last weekend before the playoffs start, lots to go on. But Miami, Florida, Mississippi State, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Georgia, Arkansas, USC, Cincinnati. We got a handful. And all stuff that will be interesting to talk about next week if there's anything interesting that pops out. Because we know SEC coaches don't really like to show a whole lot. But if you do see some interesting names pop up, that might be something worth discussing. So we will continue on with the topics. We're not going to spend forever on spring game talk because I know that it bores you, and there's not really a lot that you can gain out of it.
Yeah.
So, it's good to get eyes on the team, but other than that, you can't take anything away from game plans.
I didn't think I was going to care about the UCF thing until I saw the Twitter thing, and I saw the trick plays and everything. The one I did care about is I wanted to see Milton.
That makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Associate AD Sharon Lewis is suing LSU for $50 million.
That's a lot of money.
And I think that was where she made her mistake. So let's talk about what is actually going into this. Federal racketeering lawsuit regarding retaliation from the school after she reported racist and sexual assault allegations against former head coach Les Miles. The lawsuit says that she was denied pay raises and subjected to verbal abuse after going to officials with the allegations against Miles, including her accusation that he told her there were, quote, too many black girls employed in athletics, and an incident in which a female student accused him of, quote, getting on top of her on his office couch. It also accuses LSU officials of working with a law firm to cover up allegations against Miles, including one that he engaged in, quote, explicit sex acts with a student. On the other side, Miles' attorney, Peter Ginsburg, said the lawsuit is a work of fiction 8 years in the making. This was an emailed student. Miles has denied allegations that he made sexual advances towards students. And then from the other side, of course, LSU, who is in the middle of this, said, we are disappointed that a 20-year employee who has received several promotions throughout her career and currently serves as associate athletic director is now filing a lawsuit against the university, LSU lawyer Winston DeCour said in an email. Following the press conference by her counsel, we believe that this lawsuit is an attempt to take advantage of the situation for personal benefit. Now, Sharon Lewis is one of the two that is still there, that was there during all this stuff back in 2013. She is the one that reported this stuff. Obviously, that's what the retaliation is about. $50 million might have been a bit of a reach.
Yeah.
That's where I think she went wrong.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and you can't really explain the money.
Yeah, that's
the biggest thing.
Any
What's
going to
hurt her is the fact that over the last several years, and even with her time under Les Miles being there, because Les Miles doesn't run the athletic department, she didn't work under him, while he has massive amounts of influence. Not saying that. She did receive promotions and pay raises. Not what she thought she was receiving because of standing up for these girls. And I respect that, but the problem is it's going to be really hard to prove in court if they would have never given her any promotions or raises, or she didn't get them until after Les was gone, then she would probably have a pretty good case. But, you know,
even still, like, I do believe that she could be entitled to something. If
I don't deny that. I don't deny that at all.
I just wonder if
I think if she came out and asked for $250,000, I think if she asked for $250,000, she'd have got it. She'd have got it the second she asked for it.
I think it would have been settled.
I think they would have just settled it.
Yeah,
I do.
I think they would have settled up to maybe $1 million.
Maybe. At some point in time, the school doesn't have the right to make that decision, because you got to remember, while the athletic department brings in millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars with football, that's not the school.
Right.
Okay. This is a state school in probably the second or third poorest state in the union. I mean, it was not that long ago. You got Mississippi, South Carolina, and Louisiana are all kind of fighting for the bottom of the poorest states in the union.
It was not that long ago, like when Ed Orgeron was hired, I think, or the year before that.
It was the year before that where they were about to file bankruptcy as a school.
Yeah, they were shutting things down.
Fine. But yeah, like other state schools were going to lose their athletic departments if LSU boosters basically didn't foot the bill for it.
Yeah.
LSU basically shared TV revenue with, and that's when LSU stopped playing a lot of the Jerry World games, and they started playing all their non-conference games against in-state opponents. If we were going to pay for a win, let's give it to McNeese State. Let's give it to Louisiana Monroe. Let's give it to one of these in-state schools that's struggling and need money. If we're going to cut if we're going to cut a $2 million check to somebody, it damn well better be staying in the state.
Makes sense.
That's when all of that started changing. So this is not going to be coming from the boosters that build the palace that football players play in. This is going to be coming from Louisiana taxpayers. When you walk in the door and ask for $50 million and you're still employed with the place, you got to how much retaliation has been done if you've kept your job longer than Les did.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying Les didn't treat her badly, and I'm not saying the athletic department didn't treat her badly for speaking up for these girls. I actually think that happened, okay? I believe some of these accusations are absolutely true, maybe all of them, and I absolutely believe she had some type of retaliation, but the fact that she's still standing and Les is not makes it really hard for somebody to say, you think this is worth $50 million?
I mean, the buyout for Les Miles was not $50 million.
Well, no.
Like, the number...
Auburn boosters are laughing at this money.
Yeah.
They just gave Gus like $24 million.
This doesn't
double that?
It doesn't make sense to me. No. Like, the number figure here, like, everything else, I can totally understand
That's
the
right.
case.
That's right. But when you ask for $50 million, it makes it to where people don't take you serious. I think there are a lot of people that are just saying, this is a money grab. This is retirement change your life money when your job isn't a retirement change your life type of job.
Yeah.
If you were treated poorly, that's one thing.
That's why the LSU attorney came out and said after, he said, following the press conference by her counsel, we believe that this lawsuit is an attempt to take advantage of the situation for personal benefit.
Right. The situation is bad. LSU's getting a lot of heat right now because of things that happen under Les Miles and, Joe Oliva and these guys. It's a problem.
Yes. And
now she has a lawsuit after all these years. Why didn't she sue as soon as Les was gone?
Yeah. Well, she should have sued, if not then, a little later down the line when all of this other stuff was going on, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like maybe the continued retaliation, or maybe it was just recently because her name was linked up with all this, like, why didn't you do more? And why didn't you, or people that are, retaliating against her now. I wonder if that happened.
That shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't be happening.
It's still,
she shouldn't be catching retaliation. She's one of the, so here's the problem. This is a heroine in the story here. This is one person that's actually advocating for these girls who are victims.
Yeah.
And now she's turning things to where she's making it more about her than the girls. Yes. I think we have a big problem with that in our society, where everybody wants to, we want to be the victim.
Well, yeah, everybody wants, not everybody, obviously, but there are a lot of people now that would prefer to play victim.
These girls are potentially real victims, like legit real ones. And now you're trying to make yourself a victim, which she probably suffered some issues standing on the side of right and everybody else hating her for it. Don't think it didn't happen. We've already agreed with that.
Yeah.
$50 million is a hard pill to swallow.
It really is. It's just a really large number.
And knowing that you're trying to get it from a really poor school.
Yes.
This is not some rich private school with a huge endowment. This is not some rich state school like Connecticut where they got boatloads of money. Like, this is not that. This is a poor state school. It's a big state school.
Let's talk about something positive from that poor state school.
Okay.
And that would be Ed Orgeron talked with tight end Arik Gilbert, and they had a, quote, very positive meeting.
This guy.
I don't understand what's happening with this either, but it sounds good.
I think Arik Gilbert realized none of my classes are going to transfer. And so I can't get in school anywhere else. So I either go back to LSU, take some summer classes, but the credits I do have, while they're probably pretty low, I can at least play ball this year. That's what I think happened. Somebody said, hey, I know you think this is a lot like professional football because they pay you large sums of money to come to these schools. Anybody who's thinking that Arik Gilbert didn't get paid large sums of money to come to LSU is a fool. When he went to Florida, I'm gonna bet he got a couple K just to have a pop with those folks to visit the
wouldn't doubt it
the Dollar General. But I think he realized, oh yeah, when you don't go to class, you don't take a bunch of classes, you kind of need to stay where you're at.
And we don't know that he didn't go to classes.
Well,
that was the talk.
He didn't get into Florida because of academic reasons.
We think that.
Do we think that, or we know that?
It's not public knowledge, but it's what has gone around. We've talked about it before, but it's
whatever it is. I hope the kid turns out to be a genius, and I hope that he comes back to LSU.
I
hope
hope
that he just destroys the SEC for the next 2 years and then goes on to the pros.
Nobody would be allowed to actually release that out there, so it will always be rumor.
We hear about guys like not getting into school because of academic reasons all the time. We don't get the details. We just know.
Right, but Florida never said that. It was just that Arik Gilbert decommitted from Florida.
So if he picks LSU, do you think Florida will leak that?
Maybe. Possibly. Here's what Coach O said. He said, we had a very good meeting. Orgeron told reporters on Tuesday night, there's been no decisions that have been made. He was happy. Everybody was happy to see him. We checked with compliance to make sure that everything that he was doing was on the up and up. When he came to meet me, and he said he could, when he come meet me and he could come talk to us. With some of these Coach O quotes or something else, man. He left. He hadn't made a decision yet. Hadn't told us anything yet. I think it's still up in the air, but it was a very positive day when he came. Sounds good.
Yeah.
We haven't heard about him going anywhere else.
No, I think he's going to end up back at LSU.
He will absolutely be a pro.
Well, he's either going to end up at LSU or he's going to end up at a JUCO.
Yeah.
I think those are the two lists.
I think so. Or I mean, he could go down to FBS.
Now,
FCS.
I'm going to tell you this. If he's been watching lately, hit down Nickel. Going down to Nickel State, They're putting 70 on the board.
Oh, you better believe that.
You could be a part of that offense.
Yep. They would not be bad, I tell you that. So, or McNeese.
There's
a lot
let
of
little Orgeron throw you the ball.
A lot of fun stuff down there.
So.
Eddie George. Let's talk about this for a second. This just popped today. Eddie George named the new head coach at Tennessee State. Now, this is going to make the Southern Heritage Classic incredibly entertaining.
Yep.
With Eddie George on one side, who is a little bit of a calm demeanor, and then you got Deion Sanders on the other side, who is anything but a calm demeanor. Right. Two former All-Pros knocking this thing out. It's kind of becoming a trend after Jackson State hired Deion Sanders. Jeff Fisher, former Tennessee Titans coach, was brought on in an advisory role to help with hiring. So, of course, Eddie George's defensive coordinator is going to be Brandon Fisher. That is Jeff's son, and reports are that they are trying to work out a deal to hire Hugh Jackson as the offensive coordinator, of course, former Cleveland Browns head coach, former Bengals offensive coordinator, all that good stuff. And now this is just talk. They could be looking to add Ray Lewis to the staff. Doubt that one's going to happen. There was a lot of talk about the Deion Sanders stuff, too, like all the different people.
Yeah.
I
believe that when I see it, and Hugh's just looking for a job.
Would not doubt that. Would not doubt that at all. So this is interesting. What do you think between Eddie George and Deion Sanders, and then, of course, you've got all these former players and whatnot that are going back and coaching in college basketball. This is an interesting trend that we're seeing here, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to – at some point in time, this is going to end up trickling into major college football, FBS.
I can believe that.
I 100% think that's going to happen.
Like if Deion is successful enough at Jackson State, I 100% believe that he will get an FBS head coach.
Well, maybe not him, but I'm talking about
other guys will get opportunities.
Like other schools will start looking at alumni who've never coached but they played.
That makes sense. Like Tennessee hiring Peyton Manning, or something of that nature.
Yeah.
There's
a
lot
that goes. It's a Tennessee. I'm thinking like younger because the game is getting younger.
Yeah, it's
like
very possible.
Offensive, Kellen Mond ended up getting like the Texas Tech job in a couple of years or something weird like that.
Yeah, maybe not a couple of years, but guys that like I could see guys that graduated like 8 years ago.
Yeah,
like 30-year-olds getting a gig. I could see it. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was super young when he got the Texas Tech job. I could see it. There's so much that goes into these jobs. It's not coaching.
We've seen coaches, players become coaches before. It happens all the time.
Yeah. No, you're right.
We've just never seen – they're always quarterbacks.
That's what it feels like.
Deion is not a quarterback. Deion's a defensive back.
Yep.
And Eddie George is a running back. So the problem with these two positions are they take the most athletic ability out of any position on the field. They take the least amount of brains. And that's where you don't usually associate it with coaching.
Right.
Because there's no scheming. We've seen in the trade deadline in the NFL a running back go from one place to the other, and literally they get there Saturday, they play on Sunday. And I used to ask all the time when I was little, how they learn the plays? Like, he's a running back. Like, literally in the they're just going to say, run through this gap. Okay. Plays going here. It's a sweep this way. It's a toss this way. You're running off this tackle. Like, there's only so much that they have to know how to do.
Yeah.
And then once they get past the line of scrimmage, the rest is them. There is no scheming past the line of scrimmage. The rest is just, you just go be better than everybody else.
Yes.
And that's it's hard to coach that. I don't know how Eddie George, like, immediately thought, man, I wonder if the running game is going to be awesome. But I thought, what does he know about teaching running backs? Hey, I was awesome. Do what I used to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how you show that.
It's really strange because Eddie George just kind of came up out of nowhere. Like, I'm sure that he's been coaching somewhere.
Probably. I'm gonna bet he's coaching high school ball.
Probably. That would make sense. It was such a strange hire to see. Like, replacing Rod Reed. Like, okay.
I mean, a couple of these guys have gone on to coach high school ball. I mean, Phillip Rivers is going on to do that.
Yeah. And I could see him coming back and coaching college after that.
I was about to say.
Ain't no telling. Let's
gets fired at NC State.
Let's close out the news topics with this from USC. There was a homeless man.
This is weird.
Let me pull up my notes because I just saw it before we decided to record. USC had a homeless person that infiltrated their program, their facility, and nobody realized it.
Stuck on to practice, found a helmet, found some shorts and a T-shirt,
caught punts,
and catching punts.
He was in the jacuzzi with the players. Nobody really knew who he was, but nobody would say anything. I don't feel like this would go on at other programs. Like, it's not all on Clay Helton, right? There's a whole bunch of people around, but like
the balls on this guy,
like
man.
Clay
This
Helton,
guy is like epic story, though.
It's insane. So the question was asked. This is a Yahoo Sports article. How could a man share a field and much more with one of the biggest college football programs in the country? Per Wolf, he simply walked in. The McKay Center reportedly requires fingerprint identification for entry, but the COVID-19 pandemic has caused that procedure to decline in use, with players reportedly leaving some doors ajar. Once inside, the man simply made his way into the locker room, grabbed a helmet, jersey, and cleats, and then just walked past security to the field. And he's out there catching punts, being a part of the team, and nobody bothered to be like,
This is a Willie Mays Hayes situation.
So the quote was, he's pretty young looking and could pass as a college student, said a member of USC campus security who did not wish to be identified. He's about 5'10".
He didn't want to be identified. You'd get his ass fired.
He said the guy's about 5'10", but I heard he wore number 87 at practice. The guy who actually wears 87 is 6'4", so that was a giveaway.
Did 87 not recognize there's another guy with my number on out here?
I'm just trying to figure out, like, did that guy not... One, was he not there? And if not, why wasn't he there? But I don't know.
The balls of this guy. I mean, I'm kind of envious. I've never been brave enough to do just something this crazy.
Hey, you want to talk about crazy? Listen to this. This reportedly isn't the first time the man has done this with a USC team. He was also reportedly caught by USC security at the Trojan soccer field on a previous occasion. This guy's awesome.
Getting around.
I want this guy on my team.
Yeah, man. It's hustle. Listen. He don't have any skills, but he's got a lot of hustle.
You better believe it.
Got a lot of hustle.
If you look like you belong, we talked about this all the time because I used to be able to. So there's a few concerts here and there that I could walk around and you just act like you've been there.
You act like you're supposed to be there.
Yes, and you get anywhere you want to.
Yeah.
So you got your lanyards on. You can walk anywhere.
And you just put a scowl on your face, and people don't want to talk to you, so they just avoid you if you look like you're in a bad mood, and they just leave you alone.
Football games, it's a lot of the same.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the same. So you, I'll tell you a little trick. Just so you know, you wear a little radio, like earpiece, and put the little microphone thing down here, and then pick it up and talk every now and then. You can get anywhere you need to be.
No, see, here's the
thing.
I'm about to say something that might not go
Don't
over
try
great.
This at home,
I'm
of course.
not go over great, but I'm going to bet that security, you can't do that down here in the South or in the East Coast. I'm going to bet out there they're way less confrontational. I'm going to bet if I'm a security guy, I've been told in the past when I yell at folks that I get yelled at. A security guy made me do this, and security guy made me do that, and I shouldn't have to. I'm a part of this team, and I bet he's been chewed out enough just trying to keep a little law and order. And down here, and even in the East Coast, like we have no problems with confrontation.
Agreed.
I would think out there, authority figures don't usually like to be confrontational because people are so anti-authority. And I think that's a culture problem. I don't think that's a USC problem. I think that's a West Coast culture problem.
That might be, you might have a point there.
I managed in the security business for a long time, and I'm going to tell you, rarely did when my officers were doing their job, some people would get offended that they were doing their job. You're checking me? You think I stole something? No, we check everybody, sir.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Now, y'all are actually a security team. A lot of these concerts and whatnot, it's volunteers.
Sure.
It's cheap labor coming in to do this. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them, especially in the Southeast, not that big a deal. In the Northeast, that's a whole different game.
Yeah. They're probably union up there.
Yes.
So those guys know what they're doing.
Southeast,
and they
a lot of volunteers.
And they're looking for a fight.
Yeah.
Like they took that gig hoping that day when they went to work that they could get in a fight.
Probably so. Now, I did all of this when I had super long hair that was down to my butt and all that.
And when you were this guy's age, you were 20.
Yeah. Well, I would say a little older than that, but yeah, for the most part, yeah.
You did it in your 30s?
I want to say the last time I did it, I was probably 31, 32.
Wow.
But I could still pass for, mid-20s at 31, 32. So
I've looked like this since I was 17.
Well, I mean, I had the super long hair. I was
curse.
clean-shaven. It was, I was still the lead singer of the band.
Maybe I'll be 50 and still look like this, and it'll be a blessing.
I looked like I belonged on the road.
I know
that was the issue. I may not now, but I did.
You think they let him get a hot shower and a meal?
Yes.
Like, you don't just throw him out, right? You're like,
no.
Somebody's got to respect the game. Somebody's got to respect the hustle.
I would think so. Surely they did.
I respect the hustle.
I'm hoping they didn't call
I'd buy him a meal. I'd want to hear the story.
I'd want him to hang around the
I want to see if we can get in again.
See if maybe they should hire him. That'd work. Find a job. Yeah. Easy enough. Just hire him in. All right. We are going to discuss, maybe not forever, but we're going to take a little bit and discuss how to rework spring games in FBS football. Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy brought it up in a press conference last week that he supports spring exhibition games against outside opponents. Now, these are some of the quotes from him. He said, "It would be good for us to scrimmage Arkansas." He said, "You've got Nebraska, you got A&M. There's teams around. It would be good for us to have a spring game, a spring scrimmage, where you would do like the NFL, do some inside, do some 7-on-7, do some team drills." He said, "I would be for that just from a number standpoint. What happens is, when we get into the spring game, on most years, we don't have enough depth to have a real good spring game." So the reason that we haven't had a spring game at Oklahoma State in a while is because I think it's not favorable for the fans because we don't have enough depth, and then you can't function as a team. Like, you can't have two full teams. If we were to play a game against Arkansas or Nebraska or A&M or somebody, just a practice game, you could get really quality work. So I would be for that just in short notice without thinking it through, he said. Sounds to me like he's thought this through.
Well, yeah.
But, so we build off of that. USA Today's Blake Topmeyer proposed opponents for SEC spring games, okay? Alabama against Georgia Tech, Arkansas against Oklahoma State, and these would be rotating every year. That's what he said. Arkansas, Oklahoma State.
I like that he opened up with giving Alabama, like, the super cushy job. Let's give them the smart, nerdy kids from the ACC.
Well, I mean, this is going to be a scrimmage, right? This is not going to count. This is whatever. But I was surprised that they had Alabama against a P5 team. But if you look, this is all based on a map, basically. Like the distance between teams and all that kind of mess. I was surprised they didn't have Alabama and UAB. That was surprising.
Well, I'm sure that's a reason why. It's because the fans at Alabama don't like that UAB has a program.
It's not the fans. It's the Board of Trustees.
Well, okay.
I like UAB. We've been over this.
The boosters of Alabama.
Yeah, the boosters.
Do not
the
like
Board of
that
Trustees.
UAB has a football team.
Auburn against Troy. LSU against Louisiana Lafayette. Mississippi State and Arkansas State. Ole Miss and Memphis. Texas A&M against Houston. Florida UCF. Georgia State. Kentucky Cincinnati. Missouri Kansas State. South Carolina versus Coastal Carolina. Tennessee against App State. Vandy at Middle Tennessee State. What I'm curious about is what would make the most sense here. Obviously, everybody wants to have a home game for their spring scrimmage, I feel like. You want to do something for the fans, something, stay at home, whatever. There are only 15 practices allowed by the NCAA in the spring camp. I feel like you might have to extend that to one more if you wanted to do this to enable teams to do a home and away during every spring, because otherwise I don't know how this works.
I can tell you how this works, and I can fix this and throw this guy's idea out of the window. You basically make this another pay-for-win, but instead of giving them a $2 million check, you're going to pay them like $300,000, and you're going to use all FCS schools.
I do like that idea.
That's it. You just find the closest FCS school that needs $250K.
Alabama and Jacksonville State.
You fit the bill to bring them up. The big school gets the home game. They get to work out with the big school, and you don't have any problems. Ole Miss Memphis would not go well in a spring game. Like, who made this doesn't know the history around this area right here.
He's from Knoxville, and I was surprised at that.
He should know then. He should know Memphis and Ole Miss don't like each other. Kentucky, Cincinnati ain't going to go over real well.
Texas A&M, Houston.
Florida, go over well.
Florida, UCF.
Like, this is somebody who hasn't thought about this at all, okay? They just thought, oh, these two places are close. Let's do that. Yeah, let's find an FCS school, and let's give them another reason for us to spend our millions and millions and millions of dollars. We don't need a second or third waterfall. So instead, let's kick this $500,000, $250,000 down to an FCS program, and let's bring them in. You can even tell the coach, this is what we're working on. This is what I want you to make the defense look like. We're going to go up against this. Can you do this? They probably won't care.
And the FCS team, of course, gets work against a much
big
bigger
school.
opponent.
Yeah, that'd be a huge deal for a lot of those kids.
I do love that idea.
Yeah, I just fixed it.
It's problem solved.
You're welcome. Send the check. Trademark that idea.
Does it only apply to FCS schools, or like in Louisiana, would LSU get to play like ULM one year? Or
I mean, I would rather it be an FCS thing
because LSU would it'd be.
You don't want
LSU's playing McNeese this year.
You
in the regular season.
You don't. Yeah, you can take away playing, because you know how I hate when they play the FCS schools in real life pay for wins.
Yeah,
this would fix that. Is you can send those schools the money in the spring game. You don't get to pay for wins, so they don't get the $2 million checks anymore. But if you can sell your program to 3 or 4 schools, then maybe you can get, because I don't think that you necessarily have to keep this thing local. It's just whoever you could sell it to. But obviously, if these are state schools, you probably want to keep it local.
Yeah, I would think so. And, I mean, if this is added inventory for these networks, this is something that you could sell. And, I mean, obviously, each conference could do this on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Say the SEC just wanted to start doing it, that could work. If the Big 12 wanted to start doing it, they could do it. Like,
yeah.
You
don't need the NCAA to make a ruling for this. This is something that if would I rather see Oklahoma State and Arkansas? Sure. Or I'd rather see that.
It would still be a scrimmage at the end of the day.
But I don't think you're going to learn nearly as much by doing that.
No. I think that those teams could learn something, but you would have to. You got to get the competitive spirit out of it, because you need to work everybody on the roster.
That's really hard to do.
Exactly.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Is once you get 2 competitive dogs in a ring, the testosterone just gets to going.
Well, Connor O'Gara, so from Saturday Down South, he wrote. So this would be his scrimmage format, and one of the things on here, let's see, 4 10-minute quarters, no kickoffs, quarterbacks are 2-hand touch. 30 snaps max for all players. Fourth quarter is 7-on-7, and a restricted list of 5 players per team. Now, the restricted list, he said, let's say hypothetically it's Oklahoma State against Texas A&M. Each head coach can pick 5 players on the opposing team who cannot suit up for the spring scrimmage. And I immediately just went,
why would you do that?
So you're telling me that those 5 players don't need practice too?
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah. No, this is the problem. If I
love Connor O'Gara, by the way,
but listen,
that's ludicrous.
If I cut you a check, if I called, I don't know, Delta State, right? And I'm Ole Miss, I'm Lane Kiffin. I called Delta State and said, we're about to send you $300,000. You're gonna come up here and play in our spring game. Okay, we're gonna keep this clean. I can't have any of my guys getting hurt. You get to hang out in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. You get to play a game here. You get to, have a bunch of your fans come in, sell as many tickets as you want.
The max snap count thing?
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Most all of those things.
Perfect. Everything was good except for the restricted list.
Yeah. Listen, tell me some things you want to work on, and I'll tell my defensive coordinator or my offensive coordinator to try to draw it up for our third string guys. All our walk-on guys will work on what your scout team you want. And I'm not talking about a playbook. You can't give me that. But if you say, hey, our first game is against a triple option team, can you run the option, 1 quarter? Sure. And then one group of your scout team, your third or fourth string guys, walk-ons, they spend the week working on option plays, and then you go out there and you run option against them for them.
Yeah, it's what Gundy said. It's what the NFL does when they do.
But if you told Arkansas what to do, Arkansas is not going to do what you want them to do,
right?
And vice versa. If you're paying somebody to come provide a service for you, they're going to provide that service, and they're going to do it happily. They're going to do it willingly. They're going to be excited.
I think that you could pay them more than what you were.
I'm just throwing numbers out there. I know the game, like a real game, to come play is $2 million, right? Is that what they're at? About 1.5 to 2.
Yeah, 1.5 roundabout.
It was $1 million years ago. I don't know anybody's getting less than 1.5 right now. Maybe
no. There's still plenty that get less than 1.5.
Really?
Yeah. Because remember all the contract talk last year.
Cheap ass schools, man. Well, if you're a big boy Power 5 with a big boy TV contract and you're paying less than a 1.5 to a pay for win, I'm gonna call that a loss.
Pac-12 is not able to do it nearly as easily. Remember that. Big 12, kind of the same situation. Right, well. ACC, Big 10, SEC, absolutely.
Get better TV contracts.
Y'all need to be paying. That's easier said than done, isn't it?
All right.
All right. Moving on from there, let's talk about another interesting topic that I wanted to bring up for this week.
I would care more about spring games if they did that, though.
Oh, I would too. Because you actually get to see them against other.
I would actually care.
Yeah, I would like that idea. Moving on, who are the most underachieving P5 programs?
Okay.
And I left this as a completely open-ended question.
Yeah, you did.
I tried to make it both easy and hard at the same time because I did not want us to give the exact same answers. Because I feel like you and I, every now and then, we tend to kind of think alike on some stuff.
But some of this stuff that we think alike on, there's a definitive right and wrong.
Right.
And if we're both right, if you gave us a math test and we both made 100 on it, you'd be like, you gave all the same answers. Well, damn it, Gary, why didn't you miss half of them? I don't want to have the same answers as you.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Sometimes there's right and wrong. Here, there's not. So I still think we're going to have some of the same ones.
We absolutely might.
We'll see.
We will start off.
I only have one hard problem. The rest of them are easy as hell for me.
The reason I talked about the P5 is because all the P5 schools have the resources. They've got the resources to do this, to be at least somewhat successful.
Got it.
Right? So, and I'm not talking about those that are, when I say underachieving, I don't mean the least successful.
So, that was my first thought. We're not talking just going through and saying Rutgers, Kansas, Vanderbilt.
Don't mean that. What I mean is
I would have said
those that are
Oregon State
underachieving.
to Oregon State went Ruckshell on the Pac-12 last year.
So, for example, I'll go ahead and start us off. Right,
Fire away.
I'll start us off. SEC, I've got Texas A&M. Okay. Now, you could start with Vanderbilt, absolutely. But until really this spring, we just talked about it last week, they had not put forth the resources into the program to allow it to be successful.
Why did you pick A&M?
A&M has poured money into their facilities. They have poured money into coaching, etc. Nothing has come of it. They've got all of the recruiting base that they could possibly need. They've got all the facilities that they could possibly need. They have not had anything come of it until the 2020 COVID season, when
I think the COVID seasons killed them.
Killed A&M?
Killed them. They had 9 NFL players dropped out.
Well, yes, but even still, they went.
If those 9 NFL players played,
they went 9-1.
They are whooping some ass.
Agreed, but they were still
different.
They were still out of the national championship. Well, I'm not going to say the national championship, right? They were out of the conference race by the second week of the season.
Because they lost to Alabama.
That's what I'm saying. I understand. But they have poured all these resources into it.
That can't be the
LSU just beat Alabama in 2019. What I'm saying is they want to be able to compete for the SEC. They have not been close to competing for the SEC since they've joined the conference.
That's right.
This is a program that should that should be able to compete for the SEC, and they haven't been there. That is who I have as my most underachieving SEC team.
My most underachieving SEC team is the right answer, and it's Tennessee. And it's not close. And this is listen, I'm not Gary. This is somebody who is a Tennessee defender. Okay, I am a Tennessee apologist year in and year out. There is zero reason for them to ever finish under 500. That should just never happen. You cannot be a program of their size and finish less than 6-6.
Yeah,
you just can't do it.
I could see a year here and there when everything goes completely wrong and you have injuries and
yeah, but not for a decade, man.
Yeah, not for a decade.
I mean, they haven't been above 500 a lot. I bet they've been below it more than they've been above it for the last decade.
I don't think you'd be wrong.
That's the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right about that. The A&M thing just stuck out to me so much because
I think that's a cheap shot. Here's the
not
problem.
A cheap shot.
Here's like when you make the wrong hire. Okay, which I guess Tennessee could make all the same arguments. Yeah. If someone's not the guy, what killed them is winning hid flaws. Johnny Manziel was a Superman, and they gave someone all this money and all this extra time, and they realized, oh, this bastard can't coach his way out of a bag. This was all on Johnny.
Yeah, yeah.
That winning didn't actually do anything but make us worse. Yeah. He just dug this hole deeper.
They gave him a gigantic contract. However, it did also make them upgrade their facilities in the same process, right?
That's fine, but that sets the program back. Now you're starting. Jimbo's coming in, rebuilding a program, and I think he did it pretty quickly, to be honest.
Yes,
I really do.
He absolutely
If you put all those guys that opted out on that team last year, I thought that was going to be a special team. And guess what? We can never go back and see if it really worked or not. I don't have a time machine. I can't make that happen. I'm just going to tell you they would have won the national championship. Move on.
All right, let's talk about the ACC.
All right.
My answer here is Georgia Tech, and I don't think that it's close.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the recruiting base is there. If you choose to look at the higher academics as a negative, I guess you can if you want to, but there's a way to sell that. And I think that Jeff Collins is doing it now. Because Stanford does it, and Northwestern does it, and there's ways to get around that.
But Northwestern just learned how to do it like 4 years ago.
True.
Okay? It ain't like Northwestern's been doing it for a decade.
Notre Dame has been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah, but Notre Dame is way different.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's the academics. It's the fact that this program has become an afterthought even in the city where it is.
Well, yes.
And that should never happen. That should never be allowed to happen. And it wasn't just the Paul Johnson 11 years thing. This has been going on for a while. Remember, this is a program that won a national championship in, 1990, I believe?
Yeah, it's a long time ago. That's, 30-something years ago?
It's, 31 years ago, sure. I guess. So either way,
how math works.
It was not for – it's 31 years, yes, it's a long time. But this is still a program that has history and tradition and pride and people that believe in it. And for it to have turned into what it turned into, which partly may be because of the triple option, but
I don't agree with that. Let me tell you what I want to tell you what I think about Georgia Tech first.
Okay,
the Georgia Tech job, outside of the fact that they're in the ACC, they're Memphis. They're a gigantic school surrounded by they're a gigantic city surrounded by tons of other big schools that are coming in and poaching kids. So just because you have a massive recruiting base, you can't keep those kids because while your school is a good school,
you can't keep all of them, but you can keep some of them. Memphis has a little bit of a different issue. Georgia Tech has always been in a Power 5 conference forever.
Yeah, but I don't know if that helps them.
Historically great traditional
that's
school.
Fine. I don't think that helps them.
I agree because obviously it hasn't. But I'm saying that it should. You have to be able to sell this thing
right now on the football field. Memphis is head and shoulders better than Georgia Tech.
Well, yes, that's not even a question.
But then it tells you if Georgia Tech was a G5 school, they would probably be a lot farther along because they can actually get kids that want to play G5 ball. Right now, everybody that's level P5 ain't going there. None of them.
I don't know that I agree with that.
I do.
Who have you got for the ACC?
I got Miami, and it ain't close. You should be able to roll out of bed. This is not Florida State in the middle of shithole nowhere, Florida.
That's okay.
This is not Gainesville, the swamp, okay, where ain't a great city either. This is Miami.
So
there is no reason they should not be top 5 in recruiting every year.
They've only played for the ACC conference title one time, right?
Man, when was that?
Right. It was a couple of years ago when they lost 38-3 in the ACC title.
Okay.
And Mark Rick's
Mark Rick was there. Yeah.
So and that's why I didn't put Miami, because they've had these bouts. It's why nobody ever really talked about Alabama back in like the
just
the
because they're
mid-2000s.
playing for the ACC title. You could still be a terrible football team and still play for the ACC championship game.
I mean, every team in the Coastal has played for.
Yeah, and they're all mediocre.
They're all mediocre. Yeah, it's just Miami was ranked like number 2 at one point that season. But
I think that ranking was flawed. Obviously,
Absolutely.
we saw that. We saw that ranking was just wrong.
Yes.
So just because you've been ranked at something doesn't mean you are anything, and that fleshed out in the championship game.
Yeah,
like we saw. Oh, this is a shit team.
That's very true.
There's no reason they shouldn't be top 5 in recruiting. Year in and year out, you just roll out of bed and say, we're in South Beach. You're going to go to Gainesville? You're going to go live in Tallahassee? What the hell are you doing?
You're going to go to Tuscaloosa
Yeah,
or Columbus?
Who is going to Columbus, Ohio or Tuscaloosa, Alabama for this? Are you insane?
A lot of this can be fixed for all of these programs by making the right hire. Manny Diaz, of course, has helped fix some of the issues at Miami. They're on a bit of a roll right now.
That's fine.
Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech on a bit of a roll. A&M, same thing, on a bit of a roll.
I do not believe Manny Diaz has fixed anything.
I don't know that he's fixed
I think he's better than the last 4 or 5 guys.
I would say they're headed in the right direction.
He's better than those guys.
I don't know that he's better than Rick, but
he's better than Rick was at that point.
Okay.
Not better than Rick has ever been. No. Jesus, no.
I love that. Jesus, no.
All right, move on.
Moving on to the Big 12. We won't spend as long on
I think we're going to have the same one here.
Kansas.
Oh, no.
Who have you got?
I got Oklahoma State. You really think Kansas? So this is the
one most underachieving P5 program in the Big 12?
Well, I wasn't picking I was strictly staying away from the bottom feeders.
So the only reason that I put Kansas on there.
How would Kansas be better?
I know that it is easy pickings. I get that.
How do they improve?
There's no P5 program that has been worse than them in the last decade plus.
Oh, agreed.
There's even G5 schools that when they see Kansas on the schedule, they just chalk it up as a W.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. This program has
almost all of them
has the same resources as a bunch of these other Big 12 programs.
Right. But you just gave Georgia Tech a whole lot of credit for having a recruiting base. What in the hell is their recruiting base?
Dude, you are telling me that Kansas State should be better than Kansas every single year? You're telling me that all of these programs there, like I understand we can talk about Texas Tech and we can talk about all these other schools in the Big 12. There is no reason why Kansas should be destroyed year in and year out by Memphis and Coastal Carolina.
They shouldn't be that bad. The reason they're that bad is because because they have a powerhouse basketball program, and so they use their resources in basketball. That's not an excuse, but that's an explanation.
But it's possible to
Kansas
do both.
Kansas State does not put resources into basketball anywhere close to what Kansas does. Therefore, they put them all into football, and they're marginally better than them, but they're still substantially behind everybody else.
A bunch of the other
12.
Yeah, but a lot of it can be fixed with coaching. Now, Kansas, a lot of this is because it's bad hire after bad hire.
But my problem is when your ceiling is what Kansas State is doing, I don't know that could be like the most disappointing to me.
You and I have already discussed on this show in the past how we would fix Kansas.
Oh, no, that would be my attempt. That would be my attempt. I don't know that it would work. What I know is playing the game straight up has not worked and is not working.
Right. But
so I have plans for how I would fix it. The problem is I don't know that definitively would fix it. I love that my coach is ballsy enough to say it will work. I love that. That gives me
his coach, by the way, it's Kevin Kelly.
That gives me power and courage to make that move. But I don't know that it would actually work. Like I don't know that I believe it, but I'm gonna sell the hell out of it.
I think
that would be my job if I was in that position.
There are ways to make that program competitive. Greg Schiano just went to Rutgers, who everybody thought was just a dead end job, et cetera.
But he had Rutgers a powerhouse before he left.
Right, but they have already driven down into the doldrums of the Big Ten. They have to play Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State every year, and they were competitive.
Yes.
In 1 year.
Yes.
You can hire a coach, and you can kind of – I'm not saying that you're going to win a bunch of games immediately.
I don't know, man. The talent in New Jersey is just like
it's
1,000 times better than the talent in Kansas.
But at Kansas, you do have JUCO routes. There are ways to get into Oklahoma, into Texas, and be able to get
I
players.
feel like I could fix it, but it's tough. Mine is Oklahoma State because there is no reason they should not be a powerhouse with Texas and Oklahoma. They are not as big as those schools, but they are right there behind them in size and money. They're behind nobody. Well, they probably are behind Texas in money, but they got one
close.
They got one big swing in dick. Texas has got like 20. So, but there's no reason they come up small against Oklahoma year in and year out. When you just can't get over being little brother getting your ass whipped, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, okay, I believe
that's why they're my choice. They should be on the cusp of winning the Big 12 every year, and they are so far from it every year.
Now, you're 100% right. Let's move on. The Pac-12.
This was the only one I had a problem with, and I don't even like my answer.
I think that I like my answer. I took Arizona.
Have they ever been good at football?
Yeah. They've had good seasons. They've had good years here and there. It's a hotbed recruiting location. They've got
but
tradition.
They're not a football school. I see this like Kansas. Like they're a basketball school, man.
Yeah, I mean they are. They went to 7 bowl games in 14 years under Dick Tomey in the 80s and 90s. They had 2 top 10 finishes in those seasons. Went to 3 bowls in 8 years under Mike Stoops. Went to 5 bowls in 6 years under Rich Rodriguez. They hired Kevin Sumlin. He was awful. He went 9-20 in 3 years.
Who would have thought Kevin Sumlin's awful?
and he was just fired. And they brought in Jed Fish, of course, Patriots quarterback coach, right? So he's an alum of the school and he wanted to come out. We get it, but the reason why I put them is while they've had success, they have only won 1 Pac-12 title, and it wasn't even the Pac-12. It was the Pac-10. It was in 1993. They played for the division, or played for the title in 2014 when they won the South, but they were destroyed by Marcus Mariota and the Oregon Ducks, 51-13 in that game. But with everything that surrounds the school, they have not performed nearly. It's like the Texas A&M thing. It's like you've got all these advantages around you. You've got all these resources. You've got everything that you would need to be successful, and you can't even compete for the conference.
Yeah.
Like that's where the problem was for me. And so tell me who yours is for the Pac-12.
I picked UCLA.
I can understand that.
I think they are in a hotbed of talent. I mean,
I'm
they really
glad
could.
That we didn't say USC. Because
God, no.
It's not that
I am a Clay Helton defender. I think the hate has gone. I don't think he's the greatest coach in the world. I don't think he's near. I think the criticism for him has been demonstratively exaggerated, like extremely overblown.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's acceptable. He's not nearly as bad. He isn't. Yeah, whatever. He's not as bad as people think he is. Okay.
Yeah,
and that pisses me off. And we see Clemson and Alabama roll off undefeated season after undefeated season after undefeated season. And if you're USC and you don't go undefeated every year, you got to be a shit coach. And I think that's a bull crap standard. You know that. You know that's how I feel.
Now tell me about UCLA.
UCLA doesn't have the resources that USC has, but they got a lot of damn resources.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no reason they should not be out recruiting. I find it despicable that Washington can out-recruit them.
I don't understand how this program, which is it's a public school, how do you have
big alumni base? Now this is once again a basketball school. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a basketball school, but they have so many financial issues at that school. Like they could not fire Chip Kelly if they wanted to.
Yeah,
I don't understand how you get to that point And I do understand that the Pac-12 has obviously a ton of financial problems thanks to one Mr. Larry Scott. We get that. The media deal was awful. We get it. But if you are a school of that size, with that alumni base, with that money, with the location, with all of the talent that surrounds that area, how could it possibly have gotten to the point that it got to?
They've been bad. Like, my problem is not that they can't compete for the Pac-12. My problem is they are not competitive in a lot of games.
Yeah.
And this is not just against USC
And
or
it's
just
not
against
just-
Oregon.
It's not just Chip Kelly.
There are years when, Arizona State rolls in the door and they beat the hell out of you. There's years where Washington and Washington State roll in the door and they beat the hell out of you.
And that's embarrassing.
That should never happen. But listen, no. The great people of Pullman that should never, ever, ever, ever go into Los Angeles and beat that team.
Like a drum.
That just never happen.
You could I could see them going in and beating them, especially if you got a coach like Mike Leach.
Well, yeah,
100%. But not by 4 touchdowns. That's absurd.
So that's it. Do you think there's any? So I like curses. You think there's anything like they fired Rick Neuheisel? They have not been competitive since Rick Neuheisel.
No,
and
they were competitive after Neuheisel. Jim Mora Jr. was there, and they played for conference titles.
Jim Mora Jr. wasn't very good.
But they played for conference titles.
Yeah, but I think the conference was garbage.
And the recruiting was way up.
Yeah,
Now,
but I thought Mora was not very good.
I don't think that he was great. Obviously, there was a reason why he got fired, but I do think that he was at least okay. Like, that was
Well, they fired Rick Neuheisel for the biggest bullshit reason of all time, and I feel like this is what you get.
You better have good administrators that are willing to overlook things. But that part of
overlook things. You're overlooking an NCAA bracket pool. Are you kidding me?
I know it's absolutely absurd.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, we talked
We're
about
fire a coach for that.
We talked about Kelvin Sampson making too many phone calls and sending too many text messages and getting fired from Indiana of all places.
Well,
like, it's a different time.
They hadn't made the tournament since then either, so eat it.
Yeah, they have. They had Tom Green.
What you got? Where we going? Move on.
We're going to the Big Ten. Big Ten.
This is the last one, right?
I have got Maryland here. Okay. I know that's not the answer that you wanted.
That's disappointing.
Look, it's a newcomer to the conference.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's kind of a small fish in football.
A little bit. But if you look at where they are, if you look at all the stuff around there, the resources wise, I understand they got to play Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State every year. Same as Rutgers. Same as da-da-da-da. But they have not had a winning season after their first in the conference in 2014. That was Randy Edsall's last year. Now check this out. He went 7-6. They won at Penn State. They won at Michigan. They won a home game against Iowa. And that was Randy Edsall's last year. They fired that joker for winning those games. And I understand there was an interim coach, and that was Loxley at that point, who is now back as the head coach. Like, whatever. Do they have all the same resources as these other Big Ten schools? No, obviously not yet. And they're still not to the point financially, or maybe they have at this point.
I bet they have.
I think they've gotten to, or maybe it was like a 10-year thing where they have to build each year. Yep. Whatever it is, the recruiting base, they got the DMV right there.
No, the DMV is loaded with talent.
This team should never have been as bad as they have been over the last 6-7 years. They went 23-43 from 2015 through 2020. That is completely inexcusable, because while I just named off Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State has not been that good. Michigan was not good last year. You don't play just those 4 teams over and over and over and over again. You have other teams. You have non-conference games. They had losing seasons when they opened the year with a win against Texas.
That says more about Texas than Maryland.
Well, absolutely, but at the same time, Maryland.
That makes me feel.
What are you doing? So that was mine, Maryland, for the Big Ten.
So this is now I'm picking on a big boy. Picking on a good team.
Okay.
Really good team. I think the most disappointing is Penn State.
Okay.
There's no reason Penn State should not be splitting games year in and year out with Ohio State. This is your A&M. This is your Texas A&M argument.
Okay.
There's absolutely no reason Penn State should not be on an equal footing as Ohio State.
Here's my only issue.
They have the exact same coaching lineage, history, winning history, school tradition. They've got everything. They've got just as big of a stadium, just as massive a fan base. Everything's crazed, but for some reason, Ohio State is like 50 feet higher on the ranking than Penn State.
Penn State just won a conference title in 2016, right?
That's the 1 year they beat Ohio State, and they got screwed out of the playoff, right?
Yeah, and they won the Big Ten.
Yes.
They won the Big Ten championship. Actually played for the title. I don't remember the last time that Texas A&M actually won a conference title.
They haven't. But the argument is the same in the sense that there's no reason Penn State should not be equal to Ohio State, and the gap between them and Ohio State is huge.
So here's...
Like, we all look at the gap at Ohio State and Michigan, but people don't realize that guys at Ohio State couldn't get in at Michigan. Like, 70% of the team of Ohio State could not get in at Michigan. 100% of Ohio State players would get in at Penn State. There's no reason they're not equal. It's not like Penn State is that much better of a school than Ohio State or worse than a school.
Agreed.
They're equal on every footing.
I do think that the reputation of the school in the last
I don't think that matters
decade
at all.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm. I think the Sandusky stuff is so far behind them, it doesn't matter. No, I don't. This is a really good school. The gap between Ohio State and everybody else is large. It should not be between them and Penn State. That should be a coin flip game every year.
Yeah.
That should be a home teams catching 2.5 points every year, and that should be the winner of that game is going on to compete for the Big 12 and win the Big 10 and win the Big 10. That should be how that conference runs until Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, Michigan, somebody else can step up. But until then, those two guys should be onesie-twosie, and Penn State has beaten them one time in the last decade.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
What the hell are you doing?
We would love to hear from you guys. Go ahead and jump into the comments with who you believe is the most underachieving Power 5 program in each of these conferences. Tell us if we're right, if we're wrong, what you think we don't have correct. We would love to hear from you. So jump into the comments with that. You can also tweet us. I'm at Gary WCE.
I'm at Chris B. Giannini. I cannot believe we didn't have a single one the same.
I
thought Oklahoma State was going to be it because when you told me we're not doing just bottom feeders, I thought, well, there's no way he's not picking Kansas. He's not picking Vanderbilt.
I had to have Kansas.
Okay.
There's no reason they should ever be as bad as they actually are.
That's fine.
Let's move into the FCS Week 8 notes. This will be a very quick recap on this. Favorites last week actually got over the hump. 13-12 against the spread. Now, you did have 7 underdogs win outright. You had one outright win by a double-digit dog. That was it. Weber State beat Idaho State 20-15 on Saturday. They clinched the Big Sky bid. Eastern Washington beat Idaho 38-31, so they should have an at-large bid. We did not get to see Weber State against Eastern Washington, and that kind of sucks. That's the only bad thing about the shortened season is you didn't get to see the big matchups. Monmouth destroyed Kennesaw State on Saturday. Did you see that?
I saw the final score. Yeah,
42-17, and they get the Big South AQ bid. I'm curious, does Kennesaw still get an at-large bid into the playoffs?
I don't know.
There's only 5 spots.
I was about
for
to
at-large
say,
bids.
I don't know that they're going to get it.
I mean, they were undefeated up until that, but man, when you get beat like a drum like that and you just get shut down, like, ooh, that's
There's just
rough.
some other teams in better conferences.
Yes, I agree. Like the Missouri Valley is going to have multiple. I think the
they
CAA
they should get multiple. They are the best conference.
Yeah, the Missouri Valley, and then I think the CAA could get multiple.
Right.
And I think that Weber State and Eastern Washington from the Big Sky are both going to get in. So,
ooh, you think both are going? Okay.
Yeah, I think Eastern Washington, I think that's a team that's going to get in there. Sam Houston, they beat McNeese State 27-13 to stay undefeated. They wrap up the Southland automatic qualifying bid. Southeast Louisiana, staying in the Southland Conference, they beat Nichols on Saturday. We took the over. I texted you about this.
I know.
52-45 on Saturday. Now,
what was the score when you texted me before the fourth quarter started?
Oh Lord,
it was. I could probably go through our text, but we've sent a lot. So
I do not remember.
It was well over the over by time.
By the end of the third quarter.
The third quarter was over with. You were like, hey, I think our over is good. Hang on, here we go. Third quarter, final was 54. Yeah,
52-45,
and you told me we covered before the third quarter.
Yep. So it was 97 total points in this game. 75 was the total.
When you got these teams that are scoring a lot and playing zero defense, there's not enough. The books just don't have the stones to make a 90-something or a triple-digit total. They just don't.
No, absolutely.
They're never going to do it. It's just free money.
It's free money every.
I mean, it doesn't get any freer than that.
It was just more money for us to be able to lose on the Masters.
Oh, well, I made
you
money
didn't
on
lose
the Masters.
it.
I made a lot of money on the Masters.
You didn't lose on the Masters. So Southeast Louisiana, they beat Nichols 52-45 Saturday. They are playing Illinois State this weekend, and Illinois State from Missouri Valley, Southeast Louisiana from the Southland. It's kind of a chance at like a play-in to get into like an at-large bid for that, which is kind of cool. Like it's like NCAA tournament bubble weekend.
That's right.
So, interesting thing about this this past week though, Nichols State and Southeast Louisiana. After the game's over, Southeast Louisiana like they're celebrating a little bit, you know, getting down. The Lions are partying. A Nichols fan rushed to the field and attacked Southeast Louisiana players.
This is a big dude
on the field after the game. He was massive.
This is a big dude.
I am shocked that we do not have this happen more often in not just FCS games, because I doubt there's as much security and all that kind of stuff, but you're telling me with the number of people that are at some of these big-time FBS games, and people have been drinking all day, they're sitting out in the sun, and your team loses at the end of a game, I'm shocked that we don't have more incidents.
I agree.
It was really funny to watch on TV, though.
Nobody really got hurt, and this guy definitely got hauled off.
He got handcuffed and everything else. It's fine, but obviously we don't condone it. But when it happens, we kind of going to live, we'll laugh a little bit, right? I think we're good on that.
That guy.
All right, very quickly, we will go through FCS Week 9 previews, and let's start off with, write my time down here. Starting off, number 4, South Dakota State Jackrabbits against number 2, North Dakota State Bison. This is Dakota Marker. It is Saturday, April 17th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's on ESPN+. North Dakota State is favored to win this game by 3, 24-21. And I think that both teams make it into the playoffs regardless. In the top 4 ranking that the committee puts out, and they do this kind of like the NCAA tournament in basketball, right? They come out, they give you, hey, here's our top 4 seeds for each region. It's like the top 16 or whatever. With this, they do a top 4. Both of these teams are in their top 4.
That's right.
I would imagine, win or lose, they're both going to get in. North Dakota State will win the AQ bid with a win. South Dakota State would need a win and a loss by North Dakota. So that's going to make it somewhat interesting, because if you only got 5 at-large bids, say North Dakota State loses this game, North Dakota beats whoever they're playing, and I completely forgot who it is, but they win their game, so then they get the AQ bid. But then South Dakota State just beat North Dakota State. But you kind of want North Dakota State for the TV ratings, because that's the team that everybody knows.
Yeah, I think both of them are getting in.
So then you've only got 3 other at-large spots.
Yeah.
Because South Dakota State, and it's going to be interesting.
No, and I think there's a chance that oh God, my brain just went dead.
Southland?
No, the Southeast Conference. No, South.
CAA?
The really good conference.
Missouri Valley.
That's
North Dakota State and South Dakota State.
Oh, yeah.
CAA is Delaware, Rhode Island, and
what's the
James
one that
Madison.
Bobby's in?
That's Missouri Valley.
Okay.
I don't think Bobby's getting in.
Okay.
Don't think he's getting in. He's going to win a share of the conference title no matter what.
And you don't think that's enough to get in?
No. Don't believe so.
Share the title and you're not getting in?
So apparently, this is what I've been reading. They are counting the games that happened in the fall.
That can't happen.
Towards this. I found it very ridiculous.
That can't happen. Because those are all against FCS, FBS big boy schools.
Not all.
Oh.
And that's where the problem comes in, right? It's not all of them were, but I don't know how. Apparently, Missouri State is not a threat to make the playoffs whatsoever, because they cannot win the conference title outright because they lost to North Dakota State. I don't know.
Okay, let's move on. We're going too fast.
Moving on. Next one, that would be number 8. By the way, who you got here? North Dakota State, probably?
Give me the Jackrabbits.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago when the game got postponed.
Yes,
and you took the
sir.
Jackrabbits then, didn't you?
I took the Jackrabbits in.
I
Not
like
backing off that. North
Number-
Dakota State doing a chicanery, faking up to COVID.
Number 8, Delaware Blue Hens at the number 11 Villanova Wildcats. Delaware analytically favored to win this one by 1, 28-27. This should be a fascinating football game.
I like my Delaware Blue Hens.
It's on Flow Sports. You know we hate that. Flow Sports. It's 1 p.m. Eastern time. With a win, Delaware wins the AQ bid for the CAA. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Considering James Madison, who is the number 1 team in the country, at least according to the top 25, if Delaware wins this, they get the AQ over James
But
Madison.
they played more games, and they're both going to be the same undefeated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, I can't help it.
It's so
James Madison
weird.
should have played more games.
Well, I mean, they had teams back out on them.
I understand that, but you know what I'm saying.
But they should have, yeah.
We can't. Listen, we're not going to pull a Big Ten here, okay, and just change the rules because we don't like the team that got in.
I would imagine that they will both get in.
I would assume they both get in.
Yes. James Madison, ranked number 1 in the country.
That's an extra,
undefeated.
so that's an at-large bid.
Yes, that would be an at-large bid. So
Guaranteed.
very very interesting there. I
Much
do,
more deserving than Kennesaw.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Bam.
I do like Villanova a little bit in this spot at home. Like everybody loves Delaware. They've played really well so far. I think Villanova might mess this up for them.
Nah.
You going Blue Hens?
My Delaware Blue Hens.
Well, of course. We've had that conversation.
I've been there before.
Yeah. All right, third game at number 5, the Sam Houston State Bearcats with a K at number 19, Incarnate Word. What are they, the Cardinals? I meant to put this down. I think we've talked about it multiple times. This is a very interesting spot.
The Pope, not the bird.
Very interesting. Very interesting spot for Sam Houston State because they have already won the Southland title.
That's right.
Like they've
They're
already
in.
won it. So they're currently a top seed. Could a loss end up costing them with playoff seeding? Like they are viewed as one of the top 5 teams. I do wonder what to make of this game because Incarnate Word is not bad. They're number 19.
Well, yeah.
But I don't think Incarnate Word is a playoff team.
I don't either.
So now there is no time on this game. It's going to be on ESPN Plus.
Is it really?
But there's no ESPN Plus.
Oh,
like
the streaming. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard.
There's
The way you said that made it sound like it was going to be on TV.
just the streaming. There's no time yet because this was a recently scheduled. Like, hey, we're like Sam Houston. I know that you thought that the season was over, but
We're going to make you play one more game.
we got another week, so why not, right? Like, let's just toss it out there. By the way, it's a top 20 ranked team, and I know that you're undefeated right now, but
Some chicanery.
hey, we're going to make you go on the road too. Analytically, Sam Houston State favored to win this 35-31.
Yeah.
I kind of think I might roll Incarnate Word here. Like we've
I'd
seen,
probably take the points.
we've seen the success that Dogs have had.
Yeah.
And they're at home. This game means nothing for Sam Houston.
No doubt. I like Incarnate Word with the points.
You kind of like betting against Sam Houston anyway because you don't like Bearcat spelled with a K.
Well, yeah, I'm morally opposed to that.
Yeah. They just made up a word,
Yeah.
and you don't like that.
Like that and sexual assault are 2 things I'm not cool with.
Yes, I think common sense would say that we would be against the other one. Okay. The Holy Cross Crusaders
Okay.
at the Bucknell Bison. This is the Patriot League Championship. And my friend, 2 p.m. Eastern time, you will be able to find this one on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, I thought
Actual
some of these games were going to be on actual TV. I'm
Analytically,
surprised not more are, but yeah, go ahead.
I want you to check out the total on this.
Okay.
The analytics say that there should be around 24 points scored in this game.
Holy crap.
17-7.
Now, do they have the balls to make a total in the 30s?
If so, I might go under.
Well, I'm going to go under, but the problem is I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to give me a total in the 30s. I think they're going to give me a total in the 40s because it's just one of those things where they just don't know how to make a total that small.
I can understand it. I can understand it. And we've all seen the ball bounce a couple of different ways and touchdowns be scored ridiculously. We understand the risk involved.
That's right.
That's why they call it gambling.
Who do you like in this game?
I like Holy Cross.
You like Holy Cross?
Yeah, I do.
I think I do too. I don't feel strong about it. What's the spread prediction?
The projection is Holy Cross by 9.5.
Ooh, I don't like 10
So
points.
17-7.
I don't like double digits in a game that might not score 20 total.
Yeah, that's the only hard part.
Yeah, okay. I'll stay away from that and I'll just play the under.
But if this line is like under a touchdown,
no, yeah, if we get a short line, we'll have to wait and see. We record this on Monday nights. Those lines don't usually come out until late Monday, Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday.
It's a mess. All right, and finally, our last game that we will discuss, number 12, the Richmond Spiders at number 1, the James Madison Dukes. That is 2 p.m. Eastern time on Flow Sports. Of course it is, because of the CAA contract there. I hope they're making a fortune off of that. I hope the CAA is really getting their money's worth.
I bet they're not.
I bet they're not either. James Madison is analytically projected to win this 29-17, by 12 here. It's 2 undefeated teams, and the winner, or Delaware, will claim the AQ bid from the CAA. That kind of makes this a pretty important ball game. I was shocked to see that James Madison was projected to win this by almost 2 touchdowns. I think Richmond is actually a pretty good football team.
Yeah, I do too, but I think James Madison's kind of big.
They haven't played like it up until the last, 2 games. And I don't know, with all the COVID pauses and whatnot, I wonder how rusty they are or if they're just ready to kill somebody. I'm curious how they're going to come out in this spot. And, of course, James Madison is at home. I'll tell you this. If the line is 2 touchdowns, I will take Richmond even on the road because I think in a championship spot here for Richmond, I think that they are going to come out and at least put up a fight. So if it's 2 touchdowns, which is where I expect that line to be,
okay,
I think I would take Richmond here.
I couldn't find what the Flow Sports CAA contract might be worth.
We'll dig into that before the playoffs next week.
I'm very interested in that now. It's really hard to bet against James Madison, but you're right. If it's 14, it might be too much.
I mean, they're the number 1 team in the country according to the rankings, but again, first 4 games of the season or whatever, they didn't play like that at all. Remember, right. they had so many problems with Elon and whoever. So, yeah. And
you're right, Richmond's good.
Yeah.
But the issue is James Madison kind of catching the groove now.
I mean, it's starting to peak, getting ready for the playoffs
because they were struggling with teams like Elon and those teams. They're not anymore.
Yeah, they
kind of beating the shit out of people.
You got a point.
I might lay it no matter what. If it's over 14, if we get to the hook, I'm probably gonna walk away.
Yeah, you might be right with that.
I don't have to have action on it.
You got that right. All right. We've been going for nearly an hour and a half. And if you have been paying attention for this long, we certainly appreciate you for doing so. Look, there's been a lot to discuss. We're getting ready for FCS playoffs. We've got spring games going on. There's just a lot to talk about. So we do appreciate all of you that have stayed in, that have tuned in, that have commented, etc. Again, if you have questions, if you have topics that you want us to hit on, if you want us to debate anything, obviously we did that with the underachieving P5 teams. We talked about how to fix spring games and whether or not to make it against other teams, etc. There's a lot to talk about today. We get it. But if you have stuff that you want us to talk about, you can always jump out in the comments, or you can reach us on Twitter. I am at GaryWCE.
I'm at Chris B. Giannini.
And again, you can email us, Gary@winningcureseverything.com.
I'm Chris at winningcureseverything.com.
All right. Make sure you are subscribed to the show. You see that little subscribe button. Go ahead and knock that out. Make sure that you like the video, that you share it out, that you jump in the comments, all these things that I've said before. And make sure that you head over to sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. That is your one-stop shop. Make sure that you visit the website. There is a link in the description below. You can just click that bad boy. It'll take you right to it. Very easy to do. Is there anything else we need to hit?
That's it, brother.
Not after an hour and a half, I guess, right?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. For sportsbookreview.com, I'm Gary.
I'm Chris.
And we will see you all again next week.